Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and GameStop needs to get their act together. For whatever reason, they're being selective with which retro games they want to keep in their store and which retro games they want to send to their quote unquote retro stores. It's really confusing, and I'm not sure if anyone knows what the new policy is. I don't know if the employees know it. I don't know if the managers know it, or maybe they're just making things up as they go. Part of me feels like some of it is they're choosing to keep in stores the games that they want. Because from what I understand, when a game comes in from trade hold, employees can't buy it until it comes off of trade hold. Like, even if the employees try to buy it, I think the game rings up as like $999,000 or something like that. So they're not able to actually purchase it until it comes out of trade hold. So it's really confusing, like what they're keeping in store and what they're not. And I just feel like the story changes all the time. So it's getting a little frustrating, especially for someone who isn't in an area where the retro stores are close by. Like, all of the GameStop retro stores are far from me. So, and they're not really convenient to go to. They just, it would be more headache than not. So usually when I see retro games in a store that's a non-retro store, I'll try to see if I can pick them up. And I'm realizing that it's really up to the employee. Some employees are cool and they'll just be like, yeah, man, whatever. They'll sell it to you. Some employees are just super anal and just won't. I don't know what the deal is. But anyway, after all that rambling, I did go into a GameStop today that's not a retro GameStop, but they had all these retro games. And before I even show you these games, they had additional PlayStation 2 games, good PlayStation 2 games. Like, these were really good PlayStation 2 games. A bunch of them I already have, but they were still really good nonetheless. And they're sitting behind the counter, and I'm like, are those for sale? And I see that they have GameStop stickers on them, but the dude is like, no, they're not for sale. Why not? Because we have to ship our retro games to the warehouse. But yet he sold me PlayStation 2 games. It just blows my mind. All that being said, I decided to pick up a couple PS2 games from more than PS2, some PS2, some Xbox. We'll go through all of them now. I mainly picked these up because they were all in really, really good condition, complete in box and all that jazz. So the first one is San Andreas. I had picked up a copy of San Andreas a while back, but the case was super beat up and it didn't have the manual or anything. This one has the map of the city. The disc is in pretty good shape and it has the manual as well. So this is one that I may keep in the collection. I'm not sure. It's a strong possible, but was glad to be able to find that one. Then they also had a copy of Grand Theft Auto Vice City as well. I believe this one had the manual, and I think this one's missing the map though. So this one does have the manual, but I think this one is missing the city map. So, and the person who sold this to me was like so jittery. They probably do have the map in there, but just they didn't realize it and maybe just missed out on it. That happens from time to time, so I may go back, see if I can find it. Then they had Grand Theft Auto Vice City for Xbox. I'm really confused as to why they sell it for less on the Xbox. That's like pretty confusing, but this one did have the manual as well. Maybe there's no map that comes with Vice City, or no, there is a map that comes with Vice City. So yeah, I don't know, but this one is complete on the original Xbox. So really good condition though. I will say that all of these games are really in tip-top shape. Then they had Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2. They had this for $750. This was complete as well. Really good condition. Went ahead and added this one, picked this one up. Some of these might just be used for trade bait, I'm not sure. And then they also had a copy of SmackDown versus Raw 2009. Now, I know one of these SmackDown games is like really good. One of them, I can't remember which one it is, but one of them is pretty darn good. Can't remember if it's this one. I do have a bunch of SmackDown games already on the PlayStation 2. Decided to pick this one up. They had it there, and then they pretty much had a market priced copy of Armored Core for Answer. Nothing special about this one, and in fact, I may have to do a case swap on this because this case is pretty trash. But this is in like okay shape, not in the best shape. The manual's in okay shape. It was complete. I did go ahead and pick this one up. This was one of those ones that I think, this is one of those Xbox 360 games that kind of inflated, like shot up and then came back down to earth. And this one right now is hovering at roughly around 60 bucks. You can probably get this complete in box on eBay for about 60 bucks. So nothing really special here, but they did have a pretty decent Xbox 360 game there. So all of these are pretty much at market value. None of these are like really, you know, priced exceptionally cheap or anything like that. Outside of like any coupons that I use, which I do have coupons that I use towards games like these, points, and then your GameStop discount. Those are all the things that kind of make this semi worth purchasing, along with the fact that they're in great condition. Now, I'll probably wind up selling these two Xbox One games for sure, because not Xbox, but original Xbox games, because I don't really have, I don't do a lot with the original Xbox. I considered starting an original Xbox collection, but I'm just not trying to venture down that rabbit hole right now. So, and I think I do have some other original Xbox games that I have in a box that I'm going to be taking for trade/sale. So I'll probably bundle those together. And then SmackDown versus Raw was more so like a flyer. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that one or not. I was into wrestling games back in the day, but I kind of fell off from those, so I'm not really sure if that one's going to stay in. And then Armored Core for sure. I'm going to make that a part of my 360 collection. You know, that we are at the point where the 360 is like where we're at with the 360 and even like the PlayStation 2. I want to say between the next like 3 to 4 years is going to be where we were with like the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo stuff maybe 2-3 years ago. I would say this is probably the ideal time to start collecting for 360 and PS3, just because I don't want to say that this is the bottom for those consoles, because I think they were actually cheaper before this summer. I want to say the ideal time to have started buying 360 and PS3 games might have been a year or two ago. But they are still within reach if you're trying to like build a solid collection of those games, because like the really good PlayStation 2 stuff is expensive, but the PlayStation 2 library is so large that you can buy a bunch of PlayStation 2 games and just have a huge library with great games to play. Filled with great games. They just won't be rare or anything like that if you care about that. Some people don't care about that. They just want good games to play. So this is what I'm finding at non-retro GameStops. You know, what's frustrating is that when you find games like this at a regular GameStop, and then they send you to a retro GameStop, and that retro GameStop doesn't even have this stuff. That's when I get frustrated, because it gives me signals of confusion, and it tells me that GameStop doesn't really know what they're doing, and they're just making up rules as they go, and that makes it very confusing for the consumer. So get it together, GameStop. What are you doing? Are you going to have retro stores? Are you not? I think the retro store idea is freaking stupid. Cut it out. Let every store have their own retro section. It's not going to make much of a difference, because you guys don't have the inventory to support a retro GameStop store anyway. I think the gimmick is dumb, and I think it's just confusing to customers. I think you should just go back to the way it was before. Let every store carry whatever retro games that they get in from trade hold or from the warehouse, and continue to allow retro games to be a part of any buy two get one pre-owned sales. I think that's the way it should go. The last Pro Week was lame, you know. Where I grew up, we called things like that whack. They might still call it whack. If you grew up on the East Coast, man, that's whack. I don't know if they use the term whack in LA. Maybe they do. Or on the West Coast or in the South, I don't know. But in New York, what we would call the last Pro Week that they had for those 2 weeks, those were the wackest Pro Weeks that I've seen from GameStop in a while. So let's get it together. I think we should abandon this whole retro stores nonsense and let every store have their own retro section. It's pretty much what you guys do anyway. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think that they should continue with this retro store stuff, or do you think each store should just have their own retro section? I'm interested to know your thoughts. It's the Y2K Collector. I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.